Hello and welcome to Moving Matt. So let me know how the audio is doing. I try to fix it from last time. I am back in my studio in the United States, so hopefully everything goes well. This is actually just kind of a little bit of a spur of the moment. I'm a little bit late, and I know that some people may or may not be able to watch. This is a different time slot, but if not, maybe you're catching this on the replay, and if you are, then welcome. I'll kind of talk a little bit right now, just wait to see if people start to kind of come in, do a little bit of a pre-show. I will say what we're going to be going over today is we're going to be talking about some rumors about the possible R5 Mark II, when it will be possibly coming, as well as maybe this new sensor that doesn't exactly make sense to me, but I want to kind of go over that more in depth. Then we're going to talk about this insane possible new cinema camera coming from Sony, which would be more like a handheld cinema camera. Don't know how much it's going to cost or even if it's a real thing, but if it is real, I'm very I don't know, intrigued by it, I will say, depending on the price that it comes in at. We're going to go through all the different rumor sites. We're just going to refresh them and just kind of get a general idea of maybe sometimes we get lucky. Actually, I'll refresh some of these rumor sites and we'll get some breaking news right here on the spot. If you are here and you are watching and you like this type of stuff, hit that like button, get this out to more people. It allows us to have a more engaging conversation, and hopefully we'll get enough people in here that actually want to chat, and that's always a little bit better of a show when I can have some back and forth. Um, Let me go ahead and go back to the comments here. I don't think anybody's commenting just yet. Like I said, kind of a new setup. All right, let me go ahead and what I'll do is I'll just do some of the refresh type stuff before I go over the main topics, and we'll see if we get lucky. Maybe we'll get some breaking stories here. Okay, so right now we're on a Canon Rumors. Canon Rumors, let's refresh, get lucky. So this is the main story that we're going to be going over later, but we don't have to talk about that right now. Nothing is sticking out to me as a big story. We talked about these patents actually last week, so it kind of shows that the camera news, generally speaking, is a little bit sparser than usual. But as long as we're having a good time, that's all good. I'm thinking, depending on like the summer months, possibly, and in general, maybe just trying to add more of like a not just camera news, but also some tech news that's kind of slightly related. See how that goes. So this is a big European savings on Sony cameras. So if you're in Europe, there is some big savings, and I know you guys have been getting hit hard in Europe because of all the extra inflation and taxes on top of everything. It seems like most camera companies have raised prices pretty much everywhere around the world except in the States. So hopefully this savings here would be something big for you if you are in Europe. This is pretty interesting, right? I mean, it's just added bit of information. It says great open box Sony lens deals at Bidig. Now, I've never actually bought from Bidig, so I don't know if it's any good, but I have bought open box deals at B&H, and it's really smart in a way, or at least I believe it's smart to do, because you're getting like the same warranty. It's essentially just an open box. Somebody opened it, changed their mind, maybe used it for a couple weeks, but you get the same benefits of having, or at least at B&H, you get the same benefits of having a brand new camera, but you save usually a few $100s. And yeah, that's what I've done. So maybe check out if there's some good lenses that you're looking for. I'm actually very interested in this 50 millimeter f1.4. I've been actually thinking about getting that and selling. Right now, I'm using the Tamron 35 to 150, and I bought that in general because I like the wide zoom lane range when I'm doing travel videography type stuff, and so I just have like a really wide angle, and then I have this one which almost covers most of all my bases, but with uh, I kind of noticed that a lot of times I'm really not changing out the lenses as much. And I also like to dual shoot, so I have the Canon R5C. And by having the Canon R5C, I just wanted to have a secondary camera that, would give a lot of the landscapes and stuff of that nature, and a lot of the different architecture. I like to have that extra resolution bump. And then with the Sony A7S III, my plan was to use it more for, just the vlogging type elements of things where you're talking mostly to the camera. I don't mind like a slightly softer look on my face because, who wants to see all the crazy, I don't want to see this face in 8K or 4K downsampled 8K. So I really liked that combination, especially if you have the right LUTs to make the camera's colors match, somewhat decently. But I found out that I kind of have some overlap with the Canon lenses as well as the Sony lenses. So what I'm thinking about doing is just selling this Tamron and picking up maybe like a 70-200 that I primarily keep on the Canon, and then picking up just an extra prime here. So anyways, I might check out some of these deals myself, but kind of ran out of money because we've been traveling. This is going to be one of the big stories that I want to talk about, even though it is a wild rumor. I just think it's too intriguing not to talk about. Let me jump back over here to the comment section and just see if anybody is commenting. And other than that, we'll go back and start running down through the rumors sites. Okay, so nobody is commenting as of yet. If you are here and you do want to interact and you do want to talk, sometimes it takes people a minute to realize that you're going live, and we get more and more people in as we go. Usually I'm about to start wrapping up. I'm like, okay, well, I think I've talked long enough, and then like 4 or 5 people just jump in. But hopefully we'll have a big show today. It's like I said, it's a different time slot, so maybe we won't. But if you are here and you want to talk, then be sure to comment back and forth. And if you're here and you want to get this out to more people so we can have a more engaging conversation, hit that like button. It's very greatly appreciated. All right, let me go ahead and go back to the other rumor sites over here. So we're at Nikon Rumors. Let's see if we get lucky. Do the refresh, do the lottery ticket. Okay, so just stock announcements of the Z8. Great camera. I think it's been pretty nice to see that the Nikon Z8 has stayed in stock fairly well. Now, I know that, generally speaking, I would like to make sure that it's selling well, but from all indication, the Nikon Z8 is selling well as them not having near as many supply chain issues as they once did. And so they have a good stock of cameras in. I hope that if the supply chain issues stay good and, stay, I guess, don't back up again, I hope that they can maybe push out a Nikon Z6 Mark III. I think that's going to be when Nikon really starts competing again in the mirrorless market. Not that they don't compete already, but in the mirrorless market, they're lagging. So hopefully we can get that Z6 Mark III. That would be great for a lot of people who want to choose Nikon but can't afford to pay $4,000 just for a body. All right, so nothing new here really that I'm seeing. All right, let me jump over here to Fuji Rumors. Fuji's rumors have been kind of dead lately, so we'll see if anything has opened up here. Just some lens type announcements right here. Body, okay, that's kind of a good deal. Buy the XT5, get the 16-80 for free. That's not a bad deal if you are in the market for an XT5. Personally, I thought it was really smart what they did with the XT5 as far as like really focusing in on who they believe this camera is for, which they believed it is for the photographers, and they're kind of using it to differentiate. I swear that's just an ad that I have no clue. They're using that to differentiate between the XH line as well as you just kind of say, okay, the XH line is going to be more of our hybrid video centric, and maybe the H stands for hybrid. I don't know. And then the XT will be, for photographers primarily. But I do kind of wish that they had. I like the XT4. The video features was really good in that. Maybe it would have cannibalized the XH too much. by having like the flip screen and all that stuff. But I do like this style of bodies and this look. I get that they're using it more like, oh, this is photography, but I like this look even on a video centric camera. So I just like this body over the XH body personally. Okay, so here we go. A movie photos taken with the Fujifilm XH1. So that's an older one. And these XF lenses. Oppenheimer, I want to see this movie. It is, from all the reviews that I'm hearing it's up there with Christopher Nolan's best, if not his best. I haven't been as huge of a fan of Christopher Nolan as of recent. Not that it hasn't been bad, but I think for me, the best Christopher Nolan films were a little bit of a while back. Of course, like The Dark Knight was, to me, like the pinnacle of really superheroes films in general. It's just an amazing film in my mind. I really liked Inception. I like a lot of those different ones. Interstellar, I wasn't as huge of a fan of. So I haven't liked his stuff as much in a while. Dunkirk was pretty good, but the sound mixing was just ridiculous. But I hear, not to go on too much, but Oppenheimer is supposed to be like the greatest sensibilities all kind of put in things that he's learned and the way his storytelling. I'm hearing great things. I'm hearing there was maybe an Oscar worthy performance at here, and then you also get maybe an Oscar worthy performance for a actor in a supporting role with Robert Downey Jr. That's what we're hearing. So let me know if you've seen this movie. It just came out, but drop in the comment section below. Let me know, or rather, comments in general. Let me know. Okay, let's go ahead and go over to mirrorless rumors. If not, we'll go ahead and go to our main topics and we'll see if anybody's in the chat and we're talking. But I think we didn't get lucky today. They said the news has been very slow. Let's just call it that. Okay, we have just new lenses. There's nothing really big here. Oh yeah, this is kind of well. I think we talked about this last time. But I did hear supposedly there's a rumor. I think it's a rumors right now. I don't think it's been confirmed, but that the Black Magic is going to be partner up with the L Mount Alliance, and so their new maybe pocket cinema camera or whatever it's going to be called will be with the L Mount Alliance. If that's happening, that's super cool to me. I really like Black Magic in general. I've been using DaVinci Resolve. I just kind of started. I go back and forth between Final Cut and DaVinci Resolve, but my last few videos I've been editing with DaVinci Resolve. I enjoy the process. I think they're really a good company that's been very ambitious. So I'll be interested to see what they do with their next camera. All right. Okay, so this is kind of, okay, here we go. This is kind of some interesting news here. Fujifilm FX 100 replacement coming September 12th. So this, I wonder, and this is what I would think. Granted, I would think that like a 50 would be what they're more interested in. Fujifilm's been doing some really interesting stuff by continually making medium format more and more affordable and more open towards the masses, and giving a real other option. If people say, hey, maybe they don't want to just go to full frame, maybe they want to even do something a little bit different. It's been close enough in price that depending on who you are, you may just decide, hey, well, this is $1,000 or more extra. Let me go ahead and go up to a medium format, and that works better for certain people. But they did have some interesting news, it's not really a rumor because this was something that was being interviewed by a Fuji executive, and he was kind of talking about wanting to have I believe I'm saying this correct. I know it's been rumored on Fuji Rumors, but I'm pretty sure this was from an interview. But essentially saying that there was going to be something that kind of competes with like a faster, more sports-centric full frame. So something that's kind of competing with like the Alpha 1 and the R3 and the Z9. Now, to me, I doubt it was going to be as fast. I doubt the autofocus will be as good. But if they can get, say, a medium format camera to function fairly fast and make it, good enough for some action. I think that will be interesting. And I would love to see Fujifilm really shake up the industry with that. So I wonder if this GFX replacement is going to be that camera that they really push forward with. Let me know how my audio is doing. If you're hearing, if my audio is clipping or if it sounds good, let me know. Last week I had somebody say that I was down too low, so I jacked up the audio here today. And so hopefully it's working better. All right. Let me go ahead and go back to the comment section, and then we're going to go over the main topics if no one's chatting. Nobody is chatting. That's okay. If you are here, hit that like button. Get this out to more people. Maybe some people will actually want to be talking back and forth. If they do, that's great. I'll go ahead and go over to a couple of the main topics. We'll start off with... let's go ahead and start off with talking about the Canon R5 Mark II. A lot of times the way I do this is I like to maybe clip these videos out, or at least have the potential to clip them out. So I'll kind of have like a brief introduction, like it's me starting up a video. So if it seems a little odd, that's why I'm doing it. So today, or rather a few days ago, we got some new information about the Canon R5 Mark II. Now, the Canon R5 Mark II, it is an extremely anticipated camera, and right now this is a new rumor coming from Sony Alpha Rumors about the possibility of it having a 60 megapixel sensor. But is this something that we can trust? Does a 60 megapixel sensor make sense for the R5 Mark II? Or is it possibly getting a little bit of rumors mixed up with a different camera? Let's go ahead and hop over to Canon Rumors. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Now, first thing that we should notice, if you're ever looking at Canon Rumors, or if you ever see anybody covering and doing a video like myself, and you see a CR1 in the video or in the article, a CR1 means it's pretty much at like the lowest totem pole. They're hearing about it, but it's not necessarily something they're backing up with any very reliable sources. You get to a CR2, there's definitely some fairly good credibility coming there, but then CR3 is almost like they consider it fact, that they 100% almost know, and they're fairly accurate with a CR3. They're pretty dang accurate. So right here, I'll go ahead and read this article, and then I'm going to go over my thoughts on it and if it even makes sense. A report out on the internet suggests that the Canon EOS R5 Mark II will result in a bump from its predecessor's 45 megapixels to 60 megapixels. It seems 60 megapixels is the new 45 across the full-frame industry. Sony and Leica have 60 megapixels in some of their cameras. It doesn't much matter to us, but we'll never say no to more resolution. I will. Anyways, I would take the following information with the proverbial grain of salt, as video specifications tend to be the last thing that leaks out ahead of a product's launch. I feel like that's not true. But anyways, we'll see. Though we're open to that changing. The same report suggests that the Canon will bump frame rates up to internal 8K shooting, giving us 8K 60. The report didn't confirm whether or not this would be raw or not. I would assume it would be. Additionally, we have been told that the Canon is testing 8K 180 for the R5 Mark II. That's nuts. There was no word whether or not that was an external or some sort of internal option with cropping. This information may be related to other Canon products and was mistaken for the EOS R5 Mark II. We just I'm thinking that would possibly be like an R1 thing, which still sounds nuts, even if that's R1. But on R5 Mark II, I do not see that possibly even happening. And I will give some definitive reasons why that doesn't make sense in a minute. We put in here, the report also mentioned improvements in cooling for the next iteration of the R5. Improvements are likely, but it's vague for us to really know what that means. Along with the above information, the Camera Insider also mentions that AI autofocus capabilities. We don't want to assume what that means, but more autofocus tricks are likely coming to every manufacturing cameras. And we and others expect the Canon EOS R5 Mark II to appear in the first half of 2024. We are rating this as a CR1 as we don't see any sort of historical data on the source of these rumors. Okay, so a couple interesting things. Okay, first off, kind of knock down some of the obvious stuff. The AI autofocusing capabilities, of course, that's obvious that they're going to do something like that. They've already been doing like machine learning out of AI autofocusing stuff for a while now. I do think that they will be putting like that as center stage marketing because AI has been such a buzzword as of lately. Not to say that there isn't some impressive stuff with like Chat GPT and all that, but just in general for the marketing, even though there's already been a lot of AI behind the scenes, them bringing that to the forefront and advancing the technology even more, that's 100%. I can pretty much guarantee it. I don't need anybody telling me what the specs would be for that. Now, as far as them saying they're testing an 8K 180 R5 Mark II, I don't buy that whatsoever. And here's two big, huge reasons why. To me, that's pretty much a no-go with the current technology that we have. Not to say that Canon hasn't had some pretty crazy stuff. When Canon was first coming out with the 8K in the R5, most people thought this is nuts. That's not happening. It's insane. Granted, when it did first come out, it did have a lot of the issues that people thought it may, which was like the overheating and stuff like that. But that turned out that over the subsequent firmware updates that came after, they fixed a lot of that overheating, and I think today the R5 is one of the best, if not the best, or it's up there in the talks of the best hybrid cameras on the market. But when it launched, it did have issues, but it still did push the industry forward in a lot of ways, at least when it comes to like 8K resolution. But the reason why this will not happen in an R5 Mark II, especially as of right now, is because I have the R5C, and the R5C shoots 8K 60. But in order to shoot 8K 60, you need to have an external battery that will power it or be hooked up to an external source, because you don't get all the functions of the RF mount with like the autofocus and different lenses. So basically, you can put it in like manual mode with your lenses and won't even focus properly if you're shooting in 8K 60, because the battery is just too small and does not. It's not just the amount of storage, but it's also the amount of voltage that it's actually pushing out, the wattage, I want to say. So it's not just the amount of storage with that smaller battery, but it needs to be able to push much more energy. So I do not know how in that same body form factor that would be the R5 that they would possibly do anything to support an 8K 180. I just don't see how that's possible with the way our transistors. I don't think it's improved that much. With it wouldn't be just the amount of processing that would have to go into 8K 180, which would already be nuts and definitely make a camera extremely hot. So without active cooling, I don't know how that'd be possible in that small body either. But it's not just that, it's the processing on top of, it's not just the processing, it's the amount of energy and the battery drain that you would have to get out of that. I just don't know how that would be possible with that little battery. And so if it would, you know, they would basically have to come up with a brand new battery to put in it, and it's possible, but I just don't see it developing that far. Maybe they could have a new battery that would allow them to get 8K 60, but a new battery in that same form factor, because I don't think they're going to completely get away from that form factor. I think it would be similar. I think your batteries would be backward compatible, kind of like they have been over the last few years. They could maybe add some storage capabilities and add a little juice to the same package, but I don't think it's going to get us that far. So for that reason, I think that that is a no-go. Now, is it possible that that is an R1 spec? I do think it's possible. I think it would be pretty incredible if they did do that, but it is possible with the size of the body that you would have on an R1, which would be at least the size of an R3, if not a little bit bigger from what we're hearing. You could get some extra plating to dissipate the heat out, and it wouldn't be as big of an issue. Also, we would have also, we would be able to have that larger body or the larger battery that pushes more juice, and maybe that would have enough juice to push out a 188K. So I can see this being an R1 spec. I do not see it being an R5 spec. So um, as far as it being raw 8K 8K60, I think that makes quite a bit of sense. Um, Now, let's go ahead and move to this 60 megapixel sensor rumor, because I don't think it 100% makes sense either. Um, I think if there is a 60 megapixel sensor or more, I think that it makes more sense that this is going to be like an R5R, or yeah, it's an R5S or whatever Canon's version of it would be, that would be their higher megapixel sensor camera. So it would be basically something to compete with their with Sony's A7R5, which is a high resolution style camera. I think that that would make more sense if they're going to do that. And back a while back ago, that was a camera that was supposed to be coming right down the line. It was. I know there was some supply issues, but I think they even had that at a CR3 at one point, basically saying this camera is absolutely coming. But rumors have kind of tapered off about it, and maybe some people think it may have been canceled. But to me, if they're going to do anything that's anywhere near a 60 megapixel sensor, I think that you would move that would just be a higher resolution thing. And I still don't think it would be 60. I think if they're going to do something, they would probably push it between 60 and 80. I do not think it makes sense to move away from 45 megapixels yet. 45 megapixels is plenty, and if you had a 45 megapixel stack sensor, you don't really need any more resolution in that style of body. Um, they're saying it looks like 60 is going to be the new 45. That doesn't make sense at all. We have Leica's had that camera out forever. It's based upon the same Sony sensor as the R4. The Sony A7 R4 and 5 both have the same 61 megapixel sensor. So to me, that's not even a true thing. That's a very specialty camera that they're put in. Most of the industry has barely even went away from 24. So they're like still in that 30 range. So to me, to move past 45, when you have so much more other things that you can do besides just bumping up megapixels here, you can get away with, like, for example, if we're, the Sony A7 R5, if with its 61 megapixels, it does 8K, but you have to crop in on the sensor. It's not going to oversample from the full readout. So to me, that would be very damaging to the R5. I would be extremely shocked if it was going to downsample from like 9.6K or whatever it would have to be in order to be 8K and still go up to 60 frames per second. I just would be extremely shocked if they were able to do that, or even if the benefit would be there, because the other thing that we have, the other issue that we have, the Sony's A7 R5, it's gotten better, but I mean, you get a lot of um, pixel bending or not pixel bending, but I'm blanking on the term, but you get a lot of jelloing effects. I can't even think of the right word, but you get a lot of jelloing effects with that sensor, because it is just such a high megapixel sensor that the readout speeds are slower. So I don't think it makes sense to do. I don't think it's a good idea. I think sticking somewhere around 45, 50 at the most makes the most sense to me. The things that I would like to see focused on would be, improved dynamic range, improved low light, way more than I would like to see a bump in resolution at this point, because there's really no point. Most people are barely even doing 8K, and the people who are doing 8K aren't even using it. And 45 megapixels for images are great. And if they do that, then they still do open or leave a lane open for them to bring out a 60 plus megapixels camera and call it like the R5S or whatever they want to do. So to me, this rumor doesn't make any sense. I do think that some of these specs are possible, like the AI autofocus, definitely going to happen. I just know that it's going to be marketing in that way. 8K60, I think that that's possible. Maybe even bump it up a little bit, but it'd be very hard with the current battery unless they're able to do some new version of the same battery, kind of like they did in with the R5, and do an even newer version. But I don't see this spec anywhere close to an R5 Mark II. I can see that possibly in an R1, but um, that's being a little generous. But those are just my thoughts on the Canon R5 Mark II. Drop in the comment section below and let me know, what are your thoughts? Does it make sense? Do you think a 60 megapixel sensor makes sense for this type of camera? Do you think, like me, that this is either just completely bogus information, or they're maybe getting some information about like an R5S or whatever their high resolution camera would be? Would you be interested in a higher megapixel R5, or do you think, like myself, that it should stay somewhere around 45, that there's more things to improve on the sensor than just the resolution? Let me know all that in the comments section below. All right, let me jump back over here to the comments and see if we get anybody talking. We got a lot of shy people today. We do have some people watching. If you are here and you are watching, hit that like button, get this out to more people so we can have a more engaging conversation. If you're here and you have the ability to talk, then do so. I know a lot of people are just like go about their day. They might be driving, they might be doing chores, so they're just listening. And I completely understand that. Most of the time, if I'm listening to somebody talk, I don't care to interact. If I don't have the time, I'd like, a lot of times I'm doing something while listening. So if you're here, I just appreciate you being here. But if you could hit that like button, we'll get this out to more people, and hopefully we can have a more engaging conversation. I'd like to be hopefully talking to somebody about this R5, because to me it's just not all there. But since nobody is chatting right now, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the other main topic that we do have, and we'll talk about this. To me, it's kind of interesting. It's a wild rumor, but it's such a cool idea that I want to go over this wild rumor. All right. So we have a wild rumor coming from Sony Alpha Rumors about a possible, pretty incredible idea of a cinema camera. And I'm going to go over here to Sony Alpha Rumors right now and talk about it. I'm pretty excited if this is an actual thing, and if it's an actual thing with a decent price point, because it's going to be hard. I'll go over the rumor and it'll make a lot more sense. So right here we have it. It's a wild rumor. So again, take it with a grain of salt. When Sony Alpha Rumors is saying something's a wild rumor, it has to be pretty wild. But I will say that there is something. We've been hearing that there's going to be a new camera coming for a while now, which they said had been higher resolution, but they were saying it was going to be something completely new. So this is possibly something new. A Venice compact E-mount camera coming in late 2023. Now this is pretty cool to me. It says Sony plans to sell the Venice compact in 2023. It features a high-speed stacked full-frame sensor with 4.3K resolution, 17 stops of dynamic range, full resolution up to 90 frames per second, and DCI 4K 1.1 crop up to 120 frames per second. It offers two CF Express Type B card slot or A card slots, thus reducing the size and storage module. Also, the detached sensor module is no longer supported, as the camera with 2 times the readout speed of the Venice 2 is more suitable for certain extreme point of view applications. No idea if this is true. So if this is true, that's super cool. Now, the only issue that I would find is like Venice cameras are extremely expensive. So would this be priced like a Venice camera, or would this be priced closer to like an FX3 or something like that? I just, having fun with it. If it was priced somewhere close to like an FX3 or even like a $5,000 range, having a Venice camera would be pretty cool. The Venice colors are great. It's shooting a lot of the newer stuff is being shot on a Venice camera. 17 stops of dynamic range would be pretty awesome. Of course, that's just going to be on paper, but on paper we're getting like 15 stops out of the A7S III, and or at least in marketing. but in actuality you get somewhere closer to like 13 and a half to 14. So if they're saying 17 and they're getting in actuality like almost right at 16, that would still be incredible. Full frame resolution up to 90 frames per second at 4.3K would be great, especially with that dynamic range. And I would be completely fine with the 1.1 crop to get you to that 4K 120. Of course, I would always love to see Type B card slots. I know Sony's not going to do it, but I would like it. I wish they would. To me, this is a very intriguing camera. Now I'm going to go ahead and go over to some of the comments. I did read a comment that people had under, if I can find it. So it says, what is a Venice camera like a Hollywood Pro thing? It's shot Avatar 1 and 2 were Venice cameras. So there's some stuff that they're talking about here. So this was something that I thought was kind of interesting. Said this could be the sensor that's in the Sony cameras on the Brad Pitt Formula One movie, a film where max readout speed would be essential. I suppose that's where the rumor has come from, but I personally still think it's a Panavision FR7. So another person down here said a baby Venice could be an A1 sensor and an FX3 style body that's slightly bigger. To me, this doesn't exactly, with the specs that they're talking about, an A1 sensor doesn't make sense because that would be looking at 8K. This is sounding like it would be straight up going more for the dynamic range. Now the Venice 2 does do 8K, but I don't know how much they're really going to push the features of the Venice into a small compact camera. I think it would be smart to be able to have people already using the FX3 as kind of a substitute or like an additional camera on sets, but to be able to have like a Venice camera that will match the Venice colors and have a similar color science, that would be an amazing thing for people to have on set. And they could probably get away with selling it for 10K or whatever. But I would like to see it come in if it was going to be like a consumer style almost camera, kind of like the FX3 or the Canon C70 and things like that. I would love to see it come in under 5,000, and I'd be very interested to see. I personally like the idea. I would love to see 8K; it'd be great, but 17 stops of dynamic range. I think that that's more important than resolution when it comes to making something look more cinematic, at least to me. But those are just my thoughts on this possible wild rumor of a compact Sony Venice camera. Does this type of camera make sense to you? If so, how much do you think this camera will actually cost? Probably too much for anybody to really afford that I know, especially when you consider the price of the Venice cameras are, like 50 grand plus, maybe even 100 grand plus. It's nuts. But I would love to see this type of technology come down to like a compact camera. But let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is their new surprise camera, or do you think this is just a complete fabrication and a wild rumor? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. All right. So I've went over the main topics here today. Not many people are chatting. A lot of people will watch this on the replay. I did do a completely new time slot. It was a bit last minute, and I was even late. But I am back in the United States for at least the next 6 months. I hopefully will have. Hopefully this setup is sounding good. It will look good. Hopefully. Everybody has enjoyed their time here. And if you did, if you're watching on the replay or whatever the case is, be sure to hit that like button. It helps get this out to more people. It's very, very beneficial. But even more beneficial, if you do like these type of videos, I'm going to be trying to do even more live streams as news breaks. Possibly go over and do like instantly if something comes out, just do a live reaction to it, and then have our main live streams here on Saturdays. That is the hope and the plan. But yeah, if you can and support the channel, then subscribe. It really helps out and gets this channel further along, and gives me even more motivation to get on here and do live streams. But in general, thank you just for watching. If you're here watching, giving your time, that's more than enough. I appreciate you for being here. Hopefully next time you can join us live. Until next time.